Hello and welcome to Tête-à-Tête, France 24's flagship interview show. Our guest today is Ehud Olmert. He's a former Prime Minister of Israel, former Mayor of Jerusalem. Thank you very much for being with us, Mr. Olmert.
Good afternoon.
So for a month, we've seen the tension rising between the families of the Israeli hostages held by Hamas in Gaza and Prime Minister Binyamin Netanyahu. The recent discovery of the bodies of 6 of those hostages after they were reportedly executed by Hamas has sparked an unprecedented wave of protests since October 7th. Do you believe that nearly 1 year into the war, this could be a tipping point in Israel?
I hope so. Truth is that on Thursday, the Israeli government, the cabinet decided to reject the plan to reach a deal between us and the Hamas through the interlocutors, the Americans, the Egyptians, the Qataris. And on that same day, the 6 Israelis that were destined to be released were massacred and butchered and killed by Hamas. The feeling amongst the majority of the Israelis, not just the family of the hostages, but almost everyone, is that Netanyahu doesn't want to reach an agreement. And every time he will find a different excuse. This time it's the Philadelphia corridor, which is really very insignificant in the broader context of the war between us and the Hamas in Gaza. All these security experts, all the generals, all the heads of Mossad, of the Secret Service, they all say that it is not worth the cost of continuing to hold onto the corridor of Philadelphia. We can pull out, and if at some point in the future there will arise a need to react against the Philadelphia corridor, we will be able to do it. Netanyahu and the group of thugs that support him in the cabinet voted against the adoption of this plan. And a few hours later, the bodies of 6 Israelis that were known to be alive, that actually sent clips of videos to the families only a few weeks ago, and we saw them alive while they were under the custody of the Hamas, were massacred and killed. So obviously there is a growing rage amongst millions of Israelis, not just among the families, about everyone. Yesterday, more than 700,000 people across country, not just in Tel Aviv, were rioting and demonstrating. Imagine that this is like 10 million people in France would demonstrate in one evening all across France. I mean, this is a huge expression of discontent, of disappointment, of aggravation against the Israeli government. And I believe that this will become a turning point.
Right. What you just said implies that you believed that those 6 hostages died because of Benjamin Netanyahu. Is that what you're saying? Because he's accusing Hamas, obviously.
They were killed by Hamas. And the Hamas are the murderers and the killers and the butchers that are responsible for it. But certainly I say, and it's not me, almost everyone in Israel says so, that Netanyahu is responsible for the erosion that led to the killing of these 6 people and the killing of many others that already were found before, and the ones that will be killed tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. If we are not going to agree to a deal, we are going to determine the lives of all of the hostages. This is quite clear. We have been saying it long ago. I've warned against it. I said a long time ago that Netanyahu will not reach an agreement because he doesn't want to bring back the hostages. He doesn't want to bring back the hostages because he wants to continue the war. and there can be only one way to bring the hostages. Israel will agree to end the war. As simple as that. It's not because I know something about Yahya Sinwar that you don't know. It's because you would reach the same conclusion. Why would Yahya Sinwar bring back or return all the hostages if he doesn't get the only thing which is worthwhile for him, which is the end of the war? I mean, we are going to fight again and again and again, and there will be more Israelis killed and more innocent Palestinians killed in those places, in Gaza or in Rafah or in Khan Yunis or in other places. But we will lose the hostages.
Right.
That's as simple as that.
Right. There was obviously some very fiery debates within the security cabinet in the last few days, according to reports in the Israeli press. Defense Minister Yoav Gallant reportedly presented to the security cabinet a document detailing the consequences if such a deal was not reached. And he warned, according to the quotes of the document, of an imminent deterioration into a multi-front war. He probably has in mind Lebanon. He probably has in mind Iran. How serious is this threat for Israel?
Unfortunately, it's serious. I do not sit in those meetings. As you know, I'm not in the government. I've been sitting in those meetings for many years, and many years I led them. And I know what it means when the Minister of Defense presents such a forecast. It's very serious. And the effect remains that many of the cabinet ministers in the present cabinet are urging and are pushing for a comprehensive confrontation. Ben-Gvir and Smotrich and their supporters in the cabinet want a comprehensive confrontation. They want a war in the north, and they want a war in the south, and they want a war in the east. They want a war in the territories of the West Bank because they believe that if there will be such a confrontation, they possibly, hopefully for them, can get rid of the Palestinians living in the territories and expelling them, and thus prepare the territories for the total annexation into the state of Israel. This is outrageous, obnoxious, totally unacceptable. We will fight with all the power that we can possess in the country, millions of people that oppose it, in order to prevent it. But if you ask me whether it can slide into such a confrontation that beyond control as a result of these desires, I'm afraid there is a probability, and we have to be very careful. And first of all, we have to expose that there is such a plan amongst certain ministers in the cabinet, that there is such a desire amongst a majority of the present coalition, and that Netanyahu doesn't do anything in order to stop it, but really plays into its hands. And that can lead into such a terrible development, which will really threaten the very foundations of our lives.
Do you think that the biggest danger is a war with Iran?
Look, at some point, Iran can be provoked to take part in it. You don't have to do much in order to provoke the Iranians, because they are very much already embedded into the present circumstances. They are the supporters of Hezbollah. They provide them with all their weapons. They are supporters of the Houthis in Yemen, and they provided them with ballistic missiles which were shot at Israel from Yemen. And they are the supporters and the providers of weapons to the Iranian militias in Syria and in Iraq. So Iran is very much on the threshold of this involvement. And they threatened Israel that they will even retaliate as a result of what appeared to have been the liquidation, the targeting of Ismail Haniyeh, the former head of, chairman of Hamas. I very much hope that we will not come into it. Iran, I think, understands that a war against Israel is a war not just against Israel, it may become a war against America and against Great Britain and against France and against many other countries. And I'm not certain that Iran is particularly anxious to do it. I think we have to do everything in our power to refrain from any unnecessary provocation that can trigger their enthusiasm of some of the Iranians to go into it. And we have to end the war in the south, which will lead to a cessation of hostilities in the north. It will open up for a dialogue between Israel and the Lebanese government through the mediations of America and France. And I think France can be and should play a very important role in this. And there can be an agreement that will allow Israel to bring back all the residents of the north part of the country, which are presently away from the north, back into their homes, to end the hostilities both in the south and in the north. This is an alternative approach to the one that presently is represented by the Israeli government.
Ehud Olmert, I want to thank you very much for appearing here on France 24, and thank you all for watching this interview.